Welcome to Lifting Your Spirits, everyone, where I am interviewing the wonderful Craig Walker. He was part of the Power of Dreams saga, the Irish band that blew it out the water in the 80s, and they have released their 30th year anniversary in August of 2021. He also went solo for a while. He was part of Archive, a massive band from London, and he now does. He's now got his own project, Craig Walker and the Cold. He's collaborated with absolutely everyone, which we're going to get into in the podcast, and I'm really, really happy that I get to share with you this absolutely magnificent musician. A couple of technical notes. Basically, we done the first half of the interview as normal in my gaff with a cocktail. The camera died, but we didn't know until we stopped the interview. So we lost about 10-15 minutes at the end. He then went off to write for his solo albums and his new projects and collaborations in the States. And 6 weeks later, I said, look man, can we meet up? Can we finish it off? He was kind enough and patient enough to say yes. And then I decided to do write a 1 hour comedy special just off the bat, which took about 2 months, and then I went to Scotland for a month. So basically this has been sitting on my desk since June. So there's basically, he released the 30th year anniversary of the Power of Dreams album between beginning this podcast and ending this podcast. So I can't thank Craig enough for being so patient. This has been on my desk for a very long time, but listen guys, I'm so happy that I can share this with you because he's a very, very talented musician and an all-round genuine dude. So let's get into it. Enjoy it. To another episode of Lifting Your Spirits, where I show you how to make an awesome cocktail, and then I take it to my guest who's waiting in the West Wing, and we're going to talk about all things creative. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. Today, I want to show you the ultimate of the summer cocktails, the Gin Fizz. Lemon juice, sugar syrup, gin, and soda water. 4 ingredients, easy. Now, some of the cocktail enthusiasts watching, right, they may be thinking, Chris, what is the difference between a Gin Fizz and a Tom Collins, right? They both have the same ingredients, and you're right. A Tom Collins, though, is predominantly, or at least used to be made with Old Tom gin, which predates the commonly known gin that we have today, right? The modern version. That's basically it. But what I like about the Gin Fizz is that it's got many different variations of it. You can have a silver fizz, which is with egg white, a golden fizz, which is with egg yolk, a royal fizz with a whole egg, a diamond fizz with champagne instead of soda water, and a green fizz, which is with creme de menthe, which is this cool green colour and a really minty flavour. What I'm going to show you today is the royal fizz. That's right, a whole egg. So, let's start.
Where can I get myself a drink?
What we need, gin. Use a nice, crisp, clean gin. You don't need to go crazy on the botanics and using fancy schmancy gins. This is a sour after all, right? We're going to be disguising the flavour quite a lot, particularly with the egg. So something, cheap and cheerful, like a nice Bombay, is going to sort you out. 60 mils is what we're after. Okay, now, next comes our sugar syrup. Now this is a sour, so you can basically make it as sweet and sour as you want. 25 mils of my sugar syrup, okay? Now comes the lemon juice. With sours, the general rule of thumb is for the citrus, 30, right? Go in, 30, that's what we're after. Boom. Now for the last ingredient, the whole egg. Just get it in. Just get it in. Don't worry about it. A little tip for when you're making fizzies and Collins. What you want to do is get some nice fresh soda water, right? The fresher the better. Use your Wandering Barman bottle opener, available at all good retailers. And you put in your soda water first, right? You kind of, let's say, half fill the glass, right? And this cocktail contains no ice in the glass. We're going to do all the cooling and dilution in the shaker. Because if you shake this up and then put your mixture in first and then top it up with soda water, it's going to go everywhere. It's going to be a Mount Etna of cocktails, right? So let's shake this up. Because it's got egg white in it, we're going to do a dry shake first. Just to kind of get all that aeration happening. It's looking good. It's looking nice and foamy. Now we want to go in with the rice. Okay, here we go. That is foamy. Double strain it, but go really, really, really slowly. That's what we're after. There we go. Now, just let it sit for a wee second. Now look at the colour on that. You know what I mean? Look at that. So all we want is a nice kind of lemon zest over the top. Try to tell me that's something you wouldn't want on a beautiful summer's day? Of course it is. Of course it is. Let's try and take this to my guest. Ooh. Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. Let me just get this sorted. Okie dokie. Now, this gentleman comes all the way from Ireland. He moved here in 2015. He has been in so many bands. It's unbelievable, man. We're going to have a great chat with him today. It's only Craig Walker, everyone.
Hello, Chris.
There you go, man.
Excuse me, where can I get myself a drink?
Done? All right. Oh, Craig Walker.
Hi, Chris.
Thanks very much for coming on the podcast, man.
I'm very happy to be here. I've been checking out the podcast and seeing a few people that I know on here.
Cool, man. I'm very, very glad
cool.
you said yes. I made you the old cocktail. Little did I know that you don't drink, but that's totally
Used
fine.
to drink.
It's in the fridge for later. It's all good.
You've
Right
had
now
it.
we're rocking some tea and coffee. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Also, it's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so I kind of had it in the back of my head as well that you were like,
Oh.
the fuck is this guy? Has to tell me to drink. You know what I mean?
I'm Irish. What are you talking about?
Totally, man.
That's
Totally.
Totally normal.
So listen, man. I kind of just want to get straight into it. Like you've been doing so much over the past year. You've got you got a new album out with Power of Dreams, right?
Comes out July 23rd.
Okay.
And you can order that. I'm being a blagger here, but you can
Totally.
order that on the links, which will be in the.
That's
you can order physical copies of it.
Dude, that's exactly what this is for. So don't be shy on.
And we did that album completely I was thinking about it on the way here today. Almost a year ago, we thought we were in lockdown, couldn't really work in the studio, so it's like, all right, why don't we do it? It was originally just going to be because it was the 30th anniversary of the band's first album, which we did as kids, and I was like 18. I was 17 when I wrote the songs, and so there's a big emotional attachment to that, and there's fans out there that really wanted something. So originally the idea was to do something to commemorate that, like an acoustic version of that or something. And then I very quickly was like, nah, let's do an album.
Right.
So the producer was up for it. The guys in the band were up for it. We had the songs. I had the songs. I'd record the songs acoustically to a click track, send it to the producer, who would then mock up a thing for the drummer and the bass player.
Okay.
The drummer's in Arizona, and the guitar player is in London. So it was just this thing of sending out stuff. They did their parts, and it would just come back to the producer. He'd put it together, and it worked surprisingly. Like, it's weird. Like, the producer hadn't worked with us before, and he's an Canadian producer who works here, who's also in the Cold with me, a project I've got. So he'd never worked with the band or really heard of the band, which was great. But he said as soon as he got the parts sent in and he put them all together, he said it immediately sounded like the band. It's like, because we obviously played together for years. We've played together since we were kids. We hadn't done anything for quite a while, but I think once it's those early kind of things you never lose them. The connections and with the other band members. Yeah, like the people that you were forced in a band with. That connection is very strong.
Is the connection strong with the band members, or also the sound that you're trying to make as well? Is that still lingering in the back, or are you like, if you're doing a 30th year anniversary, Are you trying to kind of like make it something really different? Or are you trying to make keep it kind of as close to the original format as possible?
The producer made the call on that actually.
That's amazing. What did he say?
He said, "Don't change anything. Like, don't let's." He said, "I could put loads of stuff on this. I could put loads of keyboards on it, and I could make it sound really contemporary, and or I can use the elements which are all perfect for it." And he said, "Why change it when it works?" So we were like, "Oh, okay," and it was nice having the limitations. There's a little bit of electronic stuff on it, very little, but mainly everything is recorded live. It's live drums, like everything that you hear was played. In separate countries, but no, I think it was important not to. I hate when bands come, like, you know, a band will come back and it's like, you know, this, I hope you like our new direction, you know, and it's like, nobody asked for your new direction.
Okay, I like that.
I do like. For me, it was really fun to go back and make an album that I could get away with sounding like the 90s without getting slated for it.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the style of it then, the writing style was different in the 90s.
Really?
Where things, you know, you listen back to songs today, and like the style of songs always changes and it kind of transforms and stuff becomes fashionable. Like in the 80s, the middle eight, which is the third section in the song, was huge. It was, you know, sometimes they were as good as the chorus or the verse. And then the 90s, we still had that as well, which is like your classic structure of songs, you know, intro, first verse, chorus, break, middle eight, out, that kind of formula. Which was quite nice to go back and do, because these days I wouldn't necessarily think that way.
Right.
Having worked with computers for a long time and worked with different styles of music, so it is very nice to do. And a friend of mine, Tyler, who you should get on here, who lives in Berlin.
Yeah.
Tyler from Chi 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 and LCD Sound System.
Yes,
Berlin.
Tyler Pope. Yes.
He lives. Tyler's a mate. He's my neighbour. Lives in the same building.
No way.
But he did an EP last year under the name Interference Pattern, and he limited himself to, and in lockdown as well, he limited to what he could use: one drum machine, one keyboard,
right,
one microphone, and that's it.
And he just done it all on his...
Done it all on that. The whole EP was just...
I love that, man. I just love the
discipline of it.
The fact that with creative people, you kind of put a stumbling block in front of them, and they'll always find a way. They'll climb over it, they'll go around it, they'll go through it.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun, isn't it?
It is.
I've been a creative person, I think.
It is.
Finding solutions and finding ways. But yeah, he said it was really liberating, and I agree. Like, you take away, because there's so much choice now, you know, you go on your computer, you've got all this software, like you can get Abbey Road drum sound, or, you know, like all the big studios in the world. It's endless what you can do. So it's very nice to have limitations and go, right, this is all you've got, make something good out of it.
That's interesting. Being creative within the constraints of your limits, it's kind of like, I guess, the way I can relate to it maybe is being behind a bar and someone goes, look, this is the alcohol you've got, make some cocktails with it, and you're like, but what about that almond syrup? Have you had that? Like, no. Fuck off! What are you talking about, almond syrup? You've got that. Go do something.
Do
with
something
it.
Good with it.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that.
Me too.
It's a challenge. Yeah, man. No, I mean, it's good. I wanted to start just with like your new album, with The Power of Dreams, because it seems like a good place to start, because it's also relative to the beginnings.
Sure.
Of all this stuff, man. The Power of Dreams, they were pretty big in Ireland, man, but they were. You went further afield.
We did.
You were big in Japan and
toured loads in Japan.
Did you tour in Japan? When did you? What was that? In the
1990 was the first time we went out there, and it was really mental. It just came out of nowhere. You know, we signed to Polydor when we were young and in the UK, and it was back then. We got Single of the Week. We released an independent EP. In 1989, and it got Single of the Week in like The Enemy and all the weeklies and Sounds, and suddenly there was all these record companies calling to us, and we signed to Polydor UK because of the Jam, really, because I was a massive Jam fan.
Ah, really?
I wanted that Polydor 7, you know, the red Polydor label.
Ah, nice.
That was
right in the middle of
the Who were signed to. I was a big fan of the Who.
So you're signed to the same label as the Who
and the Jam and the Cure, and it was amazing. So we signed. It totally was, yeah, absolutely. But the album came out then, we recorded the album really quickly, it came out and it did really well, and particularly in places like Japan. It was suddenly like, you've got to go out to Japan, and there was nobody was going out in those days. It was like unheard of really for indie bands to be heading out there. But we went out and it was the full Beatles help.
Aye.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Screaming girls in the hotel, getting gifts.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
That must have been surreal. What were you, 19, 20?
Yeah, 18, 19, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. First time we went out, yeah. And my brother was like 16. And it was amazing. We got to, it's total culture shock. We hadn't really travelled anywhere. I mean, I'd been to Spain on holiday and I'd been to the States once as a kid. But that was it.
So how does that kind of, that reaction, how does it set you up? One thing that I always get with creative, the journey of creativity is really taking the downs with the ups. They can be rough, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but like fucking 90% of creativity is kind of like rejection and just dealing with that constant kind of, you're not good.
I'd say 95%.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that, man. I was wondering if I'm going to say that. You're like, who the fuck is this guy getting rejected here, man? I've got fucking multiple albums, mate. But no, it's
rejection after rejection,
and you have to deal with that, and that
came for me later though, because I hit the ground running. It was like, it couldn't have went better. I started writing songs at like 14, 15, put the band together. By 17 we'd released our first single, and then we were signed by my 18th birthday we'd signed the Polydor for 5-album deal for the world, and it just happened really quickly. But it went like that, and then like all bands, it starts to have it's the same.
Like everything.
At 25, I'd done 4 albums, and I thought my life was over. My career was over.
Is that how you felt, man? So you've got this amazing reaction in Japan. You're getting gifts. You're like, what the hell? We are the next big thing, and then you come back, and it kind of dies off a bit.
Of course, and that was a big one. Like most bands, like you get a run of 2, 3, 4 albums if you're lucky. Apart from the like notable exceptions, so it was a bit of a shock at 25. I was like, fuck, what am I going to do now? It really did feel like the end of the road, but like being creative, it doesn't take you long to start thinking of other ways, and now I can look at that time. It's funny how experience kind of teaches you how things look completely different with the passage of time.
Yeah,
like you can look back on what you did when you were younger with pride when you reach a certain point, whereas like 10 years previous you'd be like, oh god, what was I thinking?
A bit cringe.
Now it's like, fucking, I'm glad you wore that. I'm glad you had stupid hair. You know what I mean? I'm glad I looked like an idiot and did that. Because you look back on it a lot more fondly as you get older.
So, I mean, the diversity of your back catalogue is pretty extreme, man. Like, you can't say at all that you've kind of, you're a kind of one trick pony, that's for sure, man. You've went, I mean, the one thing that stood out for me really was you done your 4 albums, was it, with Power of Dreams?
Yeah.
And then you landed yourself with Archive.
Yeah.
A different, completely, yeah. It's completely different. What was the driving force for that? I mean, how did you even get involved with Archive in the first place?
I answered an ad I was living in London at the time, and I had, after Power of Dreams, I put a band together called Pharmacy, and we signed a deal. Now this is we talk about taking the rough with the smooth. So the Power of Dreams thing ended. I think I took a year out of music. I was like, do you know what? I can't even listen to music. Like,
is that right?
Yeah. It's like, don't want to think about it. Don't want to be a musician. I've had it. That's it. 25, done. And a year later, I'm like in a rehearsal room, auditioning members for a band, and put a band together called Pharmacy. And the night that we signed a record deal to this big label called Red Ant Records.
Just ignore me when you put that a bit closer for us, just in case.
The night that we signed, so we put this thing together, spent 2 years touring around the UK and building a fan base, and we got offered a deal. We signed a deal in the Hard Rock Cafe, and the night that we signed the deal to this American label called Red Ant Records, in the Hard Rock Cafe, as we're sitting there, the English boss is there, we're signing the deal, everyone's celebrating, and he says, oh, it's Randy, who's the American boss. I've got to take this. He goes off. 20 minutes go by, still no sign of him. Half an hour, where is he? An hour, he comes back, and he's like blood drained out of him. And he said, guys, that was Randy. Terrible news. The company's gone into Chapter 23, which means receivership. It's like
liquidation or what?
Yeah, there was what's bankrupt.
Right.
There was bankruptcy being filed against it, and because the first album on the label that he'd signed, this new label, was a Tony Braxton album. That was her second album, off the back of a huge success, and it was one of the biggest flops in the history of American music.
Oh, mate, that must have been a
kick in the teeth. Yeah, I mean, we spent. So, in fairness, our manager was really good, and Darren Robson, who now manages an Irish band called The Villagers, are really good. Darren was a really good manager, and he managed to get 3/4 of our advance, even though the company was in receivership.
Oh, right.
So we spent 6 months in a rehearsal room, 4 days a week, rehearsing a record that we knew was probably never going to get released or recorded, and contractually there's nothing we could do with it.
Right.
So,
did anyone at the mixing desk press the red button and just record something, or you got something?
We got something out of it. Yeah, the stuff is still like, it's funny because like I you think stuff is wasted, but then like that stuff has been lying on my computer now since like 1997 or 98.
That's nuts.
And my previous publisher called me up, and he said, German publisher, he said, Craig, our Japanese company are looking for, they're doing an AI version of a Britpop band. And I was like, all right. And he said, they're looking like it's going to be, they're doing, it's going to be a proper AI cartoon, whatever it is, cartoon. It's going to be a real band, like, but they need real original music. You got any this kind of Britpop? And I was like, actually, I do. And it was recorded during Britpop, so it's kind of bit Britpop influence because of the times. So that's been used in this Oasis AI band, this Britpop band that's been put together.
I think that's amazing, man. That
so stuff never done. If it's good, hang on to it.
Dude, it's just a very important lesson for any creative people. Don't be throwing out notes. Don't be pressing delete on. Just hang on to it all. You've no idea.
You never know.
Maybe somebody wants to make a documentary about you when you're 75.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You just go,
know.
Here's like 50 terabytes of information, man. There's photos, there's videos,
everything in my life.
Just do it. You never know.
Absolutely.
Hey, it might also not happen.
But that's the nature of this game, isn't it?
It is, man.
But no, keep everything. I've managed to keep all the recordings and stuff like that. So, luckily, some of it's rough sounding, but
So look, man, you do archive. How big was that for you? Like
that was really big, yeah. I mean,
because they've got like they seem to have a kind of rolling ensemble. People are coming and going, and Well, I'm very interested to know what the connection that you had with them was. You've answered a fucking ad on NME. You go in, you sing, and then they go right, and then what?
We hit it off.
And how does it work? Do you go out for drinks? Do you just go straight into the studio? Do you go meet their family? I don't know. Yeah,
it's a weird one because I'd never heard of the band, which was a good thing, I think, because I think if I had, they'd already done 2 albums when I joined.
That's right.
I met with the main guy Darius, and I think the ad said Velvet Underground, The Doors, and I was like, yeah, great, and Pink Floyd. We met. He came. Where they were, their studio was in South London, just by chance, around the corner from where I was. So there was that kind of, literally just around the corner. Mm-hmm. He came around, had a chat, we had to listen to some music. I was in the studio the next day, and that was it. Boom, and we recorded 1 track with my vocals on it, gave it to their management, and the management came back and said, yeah, that's it, go ahead, do the album, and then we straight away into an album.
That's
so brilliant. There was, but it's like I would have been probably your age around that time when Archive was happening, but a little bit younger. And so you spend a lot more, like you get to know people a lot more intensely because you spend more time socially with them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So we spend a lot of time in social situations in the studio all day, and then we go for beers after, quickly bonded. But it was really the music. We were into the same music and
it's really
wanted to do something kind of cool and different, and they were keen to bring the guitar. They knew, because my guitar background, they were far more like hip hop trip hop
Aye.
when I joined, and they were like, "Fuck, oh, you play guitar, great." And so I brought that influence in.
But that kind of prog rock stuff coming in.
Yeah, started to come in more. You know, got them to listen to the Velvet Underground and people like that. Stuff that they wouldn't have been necessarily that into. You know, they're far more into hip hop and kind of soul music even. But you know, they wouldn't. But they were like, wow, fucking hell, some of this guitar music's amazing. You know,
cool.
And which it is. You know, there's great stuff in the 90s as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So you're there till about 2004.
Yeah.
What happened?
It kind of run its course. We'd done 3 albums, and I think that they were ready to start bringing in other. They wanted to bring in, because that's what they do, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there's the singers come in and they go out.
I was kind of reading
Kind
that.
of that. So there's a lot of that. And I wanted to do other stuff as well. I was really keen. You know, I'd been in the band for 5 years, I think, and it felt like a long time. I've been in a previous band before that for like even longer. And when you're in a band, you're in a band. It's like you can't really be going off
And doing your own thing.
Not really.
I know, you can't, can you?
Not really.
You're kind of.
Tied
I mean,
to
you're
it.
not even kind of contractually obliged, but it's
unspoken rule.
Aye,
of
totally.
Bands, you know.
Yeah.
But when you're a young-ish band, you know, that should be your main focus.
Yeah,
and I totally agree with that. You know, that's how great bands get to. Whereas a band like Radiohead have gone past that, haven't they? They've done like how many albums? They've done a rake of albums, so now they can all do what they want. You know, and then they'll regroup.
It's worked for them,
Yeah,
I suppose.
no, they've been in a band since they were like teenagers as well, haven't they? I mean, I've long time.
Blur also, actually, Graham Coxon went off and done a lot of stuff, but this is actually after the Blur split up, to be
Sure. And I think that helped them coming back together then, like 'cause
Yeah.
it gets rid of all the ego, and you know, there's the dynamics in bands are funny, because you know there's always going to be somebody feeling left out, or you know, it's very rare to get it where it's like fucking solid.
Did you ever, was there any kind of projects that you've been involved in where you felt like that's solid, or is there always, or have you ever felt in the back burner, or how's your ego?
Yeah. I mean, I did an album with Bukashade, German electronic band, very very good band, super talented guys. I did an album with them, which was the first time they'd ever had a vocalist on an album, and that was. I enjoyed it, but it was pretty fucking hard.
How come? What made that hard?
Especially on tour, because you know they wanted to make it. They're like Depeche Mode fans, and they love like New Order, and they like darker stuff, The Cure, and they wanted to make an album that reflected that. And they were like, I was like, do you want me to write these dark lyrics? And they're like, no, keep doing it. I was like, all right.
Right.
So I get to go on tour. The album got kind of well received. I think a lot of their fans were like, what the fuck is this, you know? And it really hit home when we start touring it, and I'm, you know, the fans are there like eat out of their face waiting for the big dance hit, and this Irish guy walks out in a leather jacket with a bass guitar, and he's shouting miserable words.
Oh yeah, okay, I get you.
There was a couple of moments where I was like, I think I'm not in the right place here right now.
Wow.
But it was challenging.
And that you're coming to those realizations when you're on stage.
Yeah. Didn't realise it beforehand.
Right,
no indication. I mean, there was part of me was thinking, it'd be like you're doing a gig with somebody that's just not suited at all. You know what I mean? Or trying to convince an audience of something that they're not. That's not even their culture.
Well, see, that's the thing, mate. Like what I do a lot of stuff. I'm just solo, so it's all on me to control that room. And with experience, you're always going to control the room. You're always going to be.
How long does it take you to pick up the vibe in a room? How quickly can you tell?
I'm always peeking through the curtains. That's a good indication, 5 minutes before the show, get a wee, if they're really like yapping and buzzing, you're going to have a bit of a talkative crowd, like to feed off it.
Yeah.
If they're all kind of sitting there silent and stuff, then you know right away that you have to kind of maybe you tell a good couple of jokes so that they can trust you. But you have to basically do that anyway. The whole idea with comedy is getting them on your side within the first minute.
Yeah.
Because if you lose them within that first minute,
finished.
It's going to be a rough gig.
Yeah.
So you have to like come across as quite personable, good character, trustworthy, funny, because you have to come out with some strong jokes so that they then go, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm happy to give him my time. Now I don't feel so bad that I've just spent £8. I'm happy to sit back with my beer and listen to this guy, and then that will dip and then come back up and then dip and then come back up, and it's your job to control those dips.
How do you feel when you hear people chatting in the back of the room?
I don't really mind so much. It depends on the gig. So let's just go for like strictly stand-up comedy when it's just you and a mic.
Yeah.
You have to go to them, You have to kind of nip it in the bud.
Make a point of it.
You never want to like threaten them or insult them in any way. And by threaten, I don't mean I'm going to batter you. I mean you don't want to like
draw attention to them.
Yeah, so that they themselves feel like the spotlight is totally on, because maybe they never meant that.
Yeah.
If the one rule that I always kind of say is like, guys, look, rarely this happens, by the way, at paid shows. If someone's partied with £10 to go in, they're not going to be talking. It's the free shows, know.
Sure.
The kind of I've got nothing.
But gigs, people do pay, and they still talk.
That's true.
Well,
but get music.
Usually
gigs,
acoustic. Like
usually that must be rough when you're doing an acoustic gig, because you can't. You're in the middle of a song.
Yeah, I can hear a conversation, and sometimes it's happened to me, acoustic gigs, and you're in the middle of a song, and you can hear a full conversation.
The whole conversation. What I usually see, I've at least got the liberty and the advantage of going, guys, look, I don't mind if you talk. It's not bothering me. I've done this for years, mate.
You're ruining everyone else's
But
mind.
to see the 5-6 people around you, they can't hear what I'm saying and they're actually interested. So leave if you want, man, no problem. I'm not going to be offended. Or stay and be quiet, And if they continue, then it becomes a bit riotous and you're like that, guys. If you just leave, then it's all right. But it really does depend on the gig and how long you're doing. If you're doing an hour, or if you're doing 15 minutes. So
depends on that. But I really admire stand-up comedians. I think it's the toughest gig for me anyway. I just tell you, a friend, when I was in London, my accountant at the time, music accountant, and he was looking after like Placebo and all these like cool bands in the 90s, Welsh guy. And he calls me up and he said, Craig, I've been told by my doctor I need to do something for my stress levels. It's like I'm through the roof.
So is his blood pressure high and he's
all of that?
Right, okay.
So he said the doctor has told me I have to do something out of my comfort zone that completely terrifies me, that will get me to stop thinking about work, which is causing this increased blood pressure. So he invited. I said, oh yeah, great. And so it was a comedy club. He did a stand-up comedy night, an improv night, and there was me and loads of all the bands that were looking after him. And he went up and he was slaughtered.
What do you mean? What did he?
Boo, get on, rubbish!
Oh my god!
And but he came off smiling. He was like, "Wow, I love that. Can't wait for the next one."
And does he still continue?
I think he still does it. Yeah. But just because it's for him, it was important because. He's an accountant and he's doing that all day and he's a mad business brain, and he needed something to just
do something different, man.
Totally different that takes his mind off it.
Well, listen, everyone's first gig, they get slaughtered, they bomb hard, but usually within that 3, 4, 5 minutes that you're allowed to have that soapbox and just express whatever it is that's on your mind, but in a funny way, because that's really all it is. You just got to be you've got to work and be quite talented at making whatever it is that you're talking about funny. That's really just the simple terms of it, and not everyone can do that.
No, not at all. But haven't you had practice all like in school all the way through? So, like you would have had a captive audience in school.
But that's it, mate. Like that time that you told that funny story to your family on your birthday, or you were sitting around the table telling that story to your pals. That's storytelling.
Sure.
And it's just taking that to a next level.
Yeah.
I think comedy has become really popular now, and I think a lot of people can get confused because they're funny at telling a story to their pals in the pub. That's going to make them a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
It's going to make that story on stage funny.
Yeah.
But the longevity of that story then comes with the delivery, the timing. That was good. I like that. That was quite funny. And that's really important when you're on stage, because that's what you're trying to get across. That's the engagement. If you're just telling a story, anyone can listen to a story. Yeah. If you're telling a story where people are kind of looking and they're like, right? Yeah. And then the next bit, and then, right, okay. You know, that's the timing element of it.
Yeah. There's some good Scottish comics as well, isn't there?
Oh, there's amazing ones. There's Frankie Boyle, Kevin Bridges.
Frankie's great, isn't he?
Yeah.
Love him.
He's brilliant. Everyone says he's too close to the bone and too edgy and means to. But
we need somebody like that.
Yeah, you need to break those. I'm very much up for breaking those kind of boundaries if it's done well.
Yeah.
He basically looks at a punchline. He's right, and then he looks at a punchline, and then he goes, right, that's funny, but how can I now make it like slightly over the boundary there? How can I make it not completely offensive?
Well, he makes points within his comedy
exactly.
as well, important points.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a real gift.
Billy Connolly's the ultimate though.
Yeah.
He's just
amazing.
Yeah, there's nothing better than just sticking on an old video of from the 80s of his stuff and just getting immersed in it, man. Honestly, you get immersed in it, you know.
Totally.
And he's an interesting one because he doesn't follow the conventional rules of comedy. He loves just telling stories, so he doesn't have these kind of techniques that a lot of comics now try their hardest to kind of get involved in, the callbacks and the kickers and all these wee kind of things. He's just up there to some of the times that you see him in the 80s and 90s on telly. He does a joke and it doesn't land. And he goes, fuck, it doesn't even matter. And he goes on to another thing.
Yeah.
Or in the 80s, in the 70s, by the way, when he would tell a joke and it didn't land, he would just reach back and get his banjo and start playing a song.
Right.
And I was like, and when you notice that, you're like, you cheeky bastard, right? Okay, that's how you done it, man.
Yeah.
But
I remember seeing him on TV. Like he'd be on, all the big talk shows, Parkinson and stuff.
That's right.
And he's always chaotic that was the thing about him. Same with Andy Kaufman.
Yes.
Whereas there's that element of like, what the hell are they going to do next?
Totally.
That's very appealing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, man.
In comedy, particularly.
It really is. Okay, we digress. I wanted to... I'm trying to get my timeline sorted here, man, because I do struggle with that sometimes. Just before I go on to other wee things, you done the thing with...
Solo album.
You done your solo, that was...
In Iceland, I recorded it.
Was that 2009 or 2013?
Yeah, 2009.
9?
Yeah.
2019.
Recorded completely in Iceland.
On your own?
With an Icelandic producer, a guy called Bardi Johansson, who's from a band out there called Bang Gang. Very good band if you've never heard of them.
Because I kind of know that you've done. I know that you ran your bands Power of Dreams in Archive. Then you done your solo. Then you went on to do. Then you had Mineral.
Yeah.
And then
which was on McGee's label.
That was on McGee's label. Yeah. So we'll come to that briefly, and then you had your but then there's like Them There, and there's someone in between that with Phoebe.
Yeah, we did.
Is it Killdare?
Phoebe Kildare.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
It's a good name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
good rock and roll.
It is.
We had a hit with the song that we wrote. The Avener made it a worldwide hit.
It's dude. It's a great song.
Yeah,
it's a great song.
Good track. Yeah,
it's a really good song. It lost.
What's that?
What's the name of the track?
Fade Out Lines.
Fade out. I was thinking
Fade
Lost
Out
for some reason.
Lines.
Fade Out Lines. Yeah.
So that blew up. Number one here.
That's right.
Yeah.
65 million hits on YouTube or some shit. Yeah. It's nuts.
Crazy. So that was a great. It's one of those things. The longer you stick around, things like that are more likely to happen.
I know.
Keep going.
Keep plugging away, man. Keep plugging away.
The only advice I ever give anyone is actually, I can't give you advice because it's all bullshit.
Dude,
just keep doing it.
Keep going forward. That is honestly,
something will happen.
The problem is, I keep digressing, man, but it's just great talking to you.
Yeah.
The thing is this horrible thing that we creatives always have, man. This thing called self-doubt, and it's just constantly there, niggling at the back of your head, and you're like, I need to keep going.
Yeah.
I need to keep going.
Yeah.
But is it worth it? Why am I doing it? What's the point? get rid of that and just, you need to keep plugging away because something eventually has to stick.
Absolutely. As a friend of mine in London said to me when I was probably about 28, I was coming up to my 30th birthday, and he said to me, he said, Craig, so you've been a creative now, like, since you were like a teenager, and now you're hitting 30, and he said, this is the point where you have to decide if this is for life, if I'm in it for life or not. And
that's heavy.
And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He said, this is the point that you do that. You make that decision. It's either the life of an artist, whatever whatever comes, and doesn't, or you quit. And I think a lot of people hit that point, don't they?
Dude,
everybody does.
I'm hitting it now.
Oh, you're not gonna quit? Come on.
I love that. I love that. That's all. See,
it's been decided,
dude. See, we creators, man, we're so fickle. We're just so easily kind of, all we need is someone just to go, fuck off, don't quit, you know. And I'm like, great, I'm a comedian again. But no, but it's
no, but I think that fragility and that kind of doubt, the self-doubt that you mentioned, it's super important. We have to be that way, haven't we?
That's true.
We wouldn't do what we do if we were like, super confident.
Well, that's the thing. I know that's the thing. I think a lot of people tell me that I'm surrounded by. They say that I'm too hard on myself with a lot of my creativity, and I can understand that from an outside perspective looking in that might be the case, but I'm doing this alone, man. If no one else is hard on me, who's going to be like knuckling down to be like, get this done, or this isn't good enough, this can be better. I don't want to just write a half-assed joke and go, oh, that'll do. I want to be like, if this is going out there, if I'm going to say it on stage so that people hear it and understand it, or if it's going to be on the internet living forever, it needs to be good, man.
It's not on the page, it's not on the stage,
that's the one, man. That's the one. So cool. Look, your solo stuff. I'm really interested in this, man, because you were in bands all the time. Then you decide, I'm going to do a solo album. How was that, doing solo and not being with a team and producers and all that?
I didn't like it as much. I've got to say, it's the only time I've done a solo album. That was in 2009. It was a great experience because I did it with a friend, producer friend in Iceland who I really loved working with. A very super talented guy, and it was before Iceland kind of became super popular. So I was going out there and there was hardly any tourists. It was like otherworldly. I don't know whether you've ever been to Iceland.
I've never been to Iceland. I'd love to though.
Do it. And we did the album. We half of the album was done in the summer and half was in the winter. So I got to experience that whole kind of all days sunlight. I arrived in Reykjavik the first time and it was like 2:00 in the morning and it was like broad daylight. It was summertime. So it's an amazing place and it's just so fucking like, all the documentaries you've seen are true. It really does feel like you're landing on the moon. There's like no trees anywhere on the drive in because it's all volcanic. So that was great. And then we did half the album in the summer, half in the winter, which was completely different.
So how does that filter into the sound of the album?
It kind of
with the summer and the winter.
Yeah, it does. Like there's a song on there called "Summertime," which I remember sitting in a kind of light like this in Reykjavik, and it was like late. It was probably 4 a.m, and the sun hadn't got down, and we were writing this song about the summertime, and it was like, wow, forever that moment will stay in my memory. So when I hear that, definitely that sunshiny kind of liberation, being out of a band, it felt like there was no rules. I kind of wish we kind of got more radical with it, but it is what it is, and everyone would do things differently, wouldn't they, looking back?
Hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Exactly. But from that point of view, it was interesting for me to be turning around and there's nobody there, to kind of go, what do you think? Or say, well, fuck, it's my decision.
Right.
I have to decide on who, what the image is, all of it. I've got to deal with the label and
how long were each of the stints in Iceland, by the way?
Probably about a month and a half each, something like that.
So you're up there 6-7 weeks, plugging away, doing your thing. Yeah. How do you get around your work ethic? How good are you like getting yourself up, and do you have hours that you work better to record or create, or are you just kind of like, I'm getting up, I'm fucking doing it whenever? You wake up at 2:00 in the morning with an idea, the studio.
Yeah. If it comes, okay. I mean, I think when you're younger, you think it's not always going to be there, and that's the kind of what's the word? The paradox of being a young writer. Like, you've got all the energy, but you the doubts there that you're never going to be able to do it. So you keep writing and you keep doing it all the fucking time. And whereas now I know that if I get into a room with somebody, I can write a song with them. Whereas I never would have had the confidence of that before. I'd be full of self-doubt.
Oh, really?
Shit, can I do it? Is it going to be there? Is this thing this undefinable thing that I can't put my finger on that I'm capable of doing? Is it going to suddenly disappear at some point? Whereas now I kind of, as I said, I can sit in a room with anybody and I can write a song with them. I know that we could write a song today.
I love it.
But that's But that's kind of having, like, it's experience that gives you that ability to be able to have the confidence.
But you've had so much experience, man, right? You've just been relentless, man. You haven't stopped. You done then Mineral shortly after your solo.
That was great. That was with a French producer and Alan McGee, who's an old mate of mine from Creation Records.
Alan McGee's Creation Records, Oasis, Libertines,
Jesus Mary Chain,
Glasgow.
Glasgow lad.
That's right. So your pals with him, man.
He calls me up and he said, "Have you got anything, Craig? I'm starting this new label." And I said, "Actually, yeah." So I sent them this album, Mineral, the project that we were working on, a new project, and he was like, "Love it," was signing it, signed it straight away.
Oh, yes.
And that was it. Had the contract the next day.
How does that feel then? I mean, your pals with him before this and stuff, surely you've crossed paths and shit.
Power Dreams supported one of the bands that Alan managed back in the past called House of Love a lot. We toured with them a lot. We met Alan then, and that would have been like 90, 91.
That must have been amazing, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing. So Alan, he loved it. He put it out, and it was great. It was great to work with him at last. We'd never actually worked together. He'd come over. I'd put on some DJ gigs in Dublin that he'd come over and do when I was living there, and so we hung out a lot. We had like mutual friends, but that was the first time we got to work together, and that was a great experience for me. Weird album. I like it.
It's good. I was listening to it myself, man. Yeah, cool, but this is. I mean, I've been listening to all your stuff, and it's so varied.
God, I mean, it keeps me interested.
I love that. I love that, man. I love that. That's kind of what I'm interested in with your kind of your creative. Your creative process on how you're just like you're just kind of jumping on a bunch of stuff, like really successfully as well. But
it's the people though. Like if you're working with people you like, you know, it's like for me really important these days is that, you know, I'm able to sit in a room with somebody and communicate, and you know, we don't necessarily have to be best friends, but we have to be able to like have an understanding of some kind. You know, there's a spark. And usually, when somebody, you know, I do a lot of like writing sessions with four other artists, and sometimes there'll be two people in the room, sometimes there'll be three people in the room, and you can immediately tell when somebody walks in a room whether you're going to click with them.
Is that right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Like, so I've not done any writing for other people and stuff, but I'd very much like to. And I don't know how that works in the comedy world, you know. But one day I'm sure I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
But what's it like then? What are you writing then for other artists? Are you writing riffs? Are you writing lyrics? Are you writing?
Well, usually if it's for another artist, like the most important thing is the first hour that you spend in the room together talking, and only experiences kind of taught me that. I would have been like, right, let's write a song, and you're like, I don't know this person, I've only just met them, no idea about their life, no idea what they're into. So you spend an hour just talking, and in that hour, usually the song will be in it. Like there'll be a phrase, there'll be something that they
I love that. You're just picking up on that.
Yeah, it'll be like, that's it. There's our first line.
Oh, that's cool.
And
that's really cool. That's
so you're always looking for stuff to riff on. You know, like comedy. You know, it's like it's all around you. But so the conversation is the most important, and usually the song will come out of that conversation. Right. If you don't have that conversation, and it's a brick wall.
See,
you're not going to write a great song. It's going to be like as somebody describes it, it's like putting IKEA furniture together. You know, you've got the you got the instructions and you put it together and screw it and it looks all right and it's functioning, but it's no masterpiece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna do a job, but so for me, like if somebody's very you hear actors talking about that. You know, he was so generous. You know, Sean Penn, he was so generous to work with. I used to think, what does that mean? You know, but I think it's the more you give in any creative situation, the better the whole thing is. You know, you get into this flow.
I get that.
The magic, something magical happens when you. It's like meeting somebody at a party that you just hit it off immediately. Yeah. The conversation's just like, fucking hell, I could talk to this person.
I know, man, it's mental. I think I've kind of stand up is a kind of a lonely game at the best of times, but I think with the kind of stuff that I've been doing over the past 5 years, I think I've for some reason I've kind of created this little envelope or this little structure, particularly with the Wandering Barman, who anyone watching this will probably be aware of what the show is. It's constraining. It's kind of like what I've done is I've created this little kind of this box, exactly, that I can make cocktails in and do comedy in, rather than just breaking that down and just doing cocktails wherever and doing comedy wherever, you know.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I think this idea of kind of maybe like kind of working with other people, because I think that does help the creative process.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, man?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think collaboration for me is so important, you know, because I think at some point you as a writer or as a musician, you kind of realize I'm not David Bowie, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to be able to sit down and write fucking Hunky Dory, like, you know, an album like that by myself.
Do you have a favourite Bowie album, by the way?
I think Low.
Me too. Yeah, I like Low.
I love Low.
That's fucking brilliant.
And I know because it was made here as well.
Yeah, I think there's about that connection. Yeah.
But I loved it. I love that album. But I think collaboration, and Bowie's in person always collaborated. People don't talk enough about that. He always worked with fucking amazing people.
Right. Yeah.
Always,
right enough.
the whole way through his career.
Right enough.
And you know, like from Mick Ronson onwards, it was just like amazing
That's
talented
right.
people around him.
There's
and you know the list. Even at the end, he was working with the jazz band from New York who were great on Black Star. You know,
yeah, I listened to that for the first time, man, not that long ago. I couldn't believe it took me. So here is the break, guys. Apologies for that. The next part of the show is outside, so there's some buses and birds and nature. It's wonderful, and I was quite surprised at how quickly we, after 6 weeks, got back into David Bowie. So that's something. We've got about 15 minutes to go. So continue relaxing. Okay, we're back in a completely different setting. I'm sure you would have got a general vibe that our camera cut out, and this is us back.
We got transported and we were taken away on a spaceship.
We absolutely were, man. So, okay, just before we dive back into what we were talking about last month, because it's been almost a month a month since we last saw each other.
Yeah.
Power of Dreams, the 30th anniversary album, was about to be released. It was 23rd of July. Since that time, dude, congratulations.
Thank you, mate.
It's went mental.
It went really great, yeah. We were really surprised. We had no idea how it'd go, but it went straight into the iTunes album chart for #1 in Ireland, and we've gone into the proper album charts as well, official charts, and yeah, it's been amazing, and the feedback's been great, you know. People are really loving it, which is, great for me. I'm just happy that we're bringing a bit of joy into people's lives.
What's because has there been any reaction to the older albums?
Yeah, people are getting into it. That's the weird thing, because there's younger people have just heard the new album.
Yeah. And
I've had quite a few people message say, I didn't know the band before, I've just got into it and I'm now listening to your old music and it's great. So, and it's funny. It's going to bring older people or people that never heard of the band are getting into it.
Aye, totally, man, totally.
Which I never expected.
I feel like I'm in a very fortunate position as a kind of interviewer, man. How many people get to, in the one interview, essentially get the before and the after?
Before and after. I love it.
So it's really cool, man.
Yeah.
So listen, man, congratulations on all that. There's a couple of things I want to I want to continue talking about. We basically got cut off about kind of who we're influenced by, and for some reason, I mean, for many obvious reasons, we started talking about Bowie or Bowie, who knows?
Yeah.
Not even he knew, I don't think.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, is it Black Star that was the last album?
Yeah.
I listened to that for the first time last month, and it's been out since 2016 or something, is it not?
When did he die?
No, 2018
when he died, yeah.
And I just got around to it, man, because I don't know how you felt when Bowie died, but
that was big.
It was big.
I didn't go to studio that day because I was so like, I mean, I didn't know him, I loved his music, but there was something about it. It was like losing a member of your family, wasn't it? Because he'd always been there. Like,
there's a couple of deaths that have happened in that kind of 2016, 2017, 2018.
Prince.
Oh Jesus!
Prince was huge.
There was just a couple of ones that
George Michael.
I think one of my biggest ones was Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And the way he went as well, and I was like,
really sad,
Jesus! I was like, that's unreal.
It felt like there was something going on, didn't it?
Guy was like 54 as well or something. He wasn't even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By nowhere.
Lou Reed died as well around that period.
That's
as well,
right.
Didn't he? So yeah, big giants.
And there was a couple of things because of that I was like, there was a couple of big ones that hit me hard, and that was David Bowie. And I think I didn't listen to Bowie for a while. On the day he died, I was working in the minibar, and I got on Spotify and I played all these albums in chronological order.
Yeah.
I was working a 17-hour shift.
Ooh.
And I started at about 8 o'clock, pressed play on his 1967 or 8 or 9 album. I can't remember.
Davy Jones.
That's the one, yeah. And by the time about 11 o'clock in the morning came round, I think we'd only got to like 2004. It was just mental.
Huge.
It was a huge catalogue,
Yeah.
So
Black Star's a great album, isn't it? I mean, I had bought the album and I don't think I'd listened to it, and then he died, and I'd heard the single, which I thought was brilliant, Black Star.
Yeah.
And then listened to the album. Posthumous, is that how you say posthumous? Posthumous.
Oh yeah, that's
you know
one.
what I mean?
Yeah,
After the guy's dead. So it had this extra poignancy. It would have been a great album anyway, I think.
For sure.
I think Lazarus and Black Star are two of the best things he ever did.
Yeah.
And I like that he tied it all up, with the reference to Major Tom again.
I know.
It's all kind of him disappearing into the wardrobe at the end of Lazarus. It's like so brilliant. And genius right till the end.
It's absolutely, man. Absolutely.
There's not many you can say like that. Really. I mean,
he was one of the. He was really one in a million, man.
It seems like more people fuck up their career the older they get. Thinking of like people like Morrissey who've gone kind of full 360 with their career and fucked it up in their own lifetime because of their views. Because Bowie never did.
Yeah, and I think one of the secrets to that was the amount of people that he collaborated with.
For sure.
Like just constantly seeking new inspiration from new talent. And I think that's why we were talking about Bowie in the first place, because with Cold, right, you're collaborating with like so many people. And that was always something that interested me, which something that I actually ask myself a lot, being a comedian: is it better to work alone or is it better to work with people? I've still not figured that out, but
you may never figure it out.
That's true, man. That's true.
That's about the voyage. When I started out, I was a completely sole writer. I didn't want to write with anybody. I sat in my room, I had the guitar, and I had no desire to write with anybody else. But actually, coming to bear over the years, that's changed for sure. I've realised the value. I think when you're younger, you feel you can do everything yourself. You feel that you should be doing it all yourself. You should be capable of it, and if you don't do that, like, you're not a proper artist.
That's true.
But
that's true.
As you get older, you begin to value other people's talents, and how by collaborating with them, you bring your set of tools, they bring their set of tools, and at the end of it, you've both got something better than either of you would have got by yourself. Usually
that's the case. Yeah. See, I'm definitely reaching a point in my life at the moment where I'm like really trying to seek the help of others to bring my projects and ideas forward,
Yeah.
or to another platform, to a bigger platform, to a different platform. It doesn't really matter, because like this, like solo songwriting, presumably is very much in that way quite similar to stand-up comedy.
Sure.
You're just constantly surrounded, and you're just embedded in your own head constantly, and that can be kind of exhausting, man.
Yeah, and you don't know whether it's, as you know, you never really know it's good until you play it to somebody else anyway. Whereas when you're collaborating with somebody, I find that if an idea is not any good, the other person's going to tell you, you know.
Hopefully.
Or vice versa.
Is that something like, see, when you're working with people, right, and you're collaborating, is there a bit like a mutual understanding of transparency, where you're like, guys, look, we're not dicking about here.
Yeah.
We can't, you know, these studios cost money and stuff.
Yeah.
We need to know if we're going to work together. How do you break the ice? How do you get to know people that are in your kind of caliber?
It's kind of like, I mean, first you have to be open to it. A lot of people are not open to collaborating, you know, like they hang on to what they do, and some people you'll work with are like that, and you know, I've had instances where we've had to say, listen, you know what you want, just you should go away and do it yourself.
Okay.
You know? And that's totally fine. But the ones that really work are the ones that, like for me, the best sessions and the best co-writers or collaborators are the ones that there's no ego brought in. It's just completely, you know, let's create something great, and there's no keeping score on who's doing what. It's just, this is what we're creating, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's something magical about that, you know. You're never going to get, you know, you can bring any combination of people together and they will create something utterly unique.
That's
and
true.
I think I said it to you in the previous one, you know, at some point you realise you're not David Bowie, or you're not, you know, Bob Dylan, or you're never going to be capable of reaching that level on your own. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, man. So
if you get smart, the smarter you, like, for me, like I like younger, I work with a lot of younger artists, and I always say to them, like, fucking, as soon as you can, realise the importance of collaboration,
right,
and how important that is. Because if you look at the work that you do by yourself and compare it to what you're capable of with somebody else,
absolutely, man,
it's having somebody to just either really sparring, like the best collaborators for me are the ones where you're throwing lines at each other, and it's this constant flow. And you're never short of ideas.
When you say things like throwing lines at each other, does that mean are you speaking lyrically, or are you speaking like riffs or drum?
Lyrically to start with, yeah. Just like, you know, find an idea that we want to write a song about. Once you got the idea, then it's just like throwing ideas around. And the more open you are to that, the better the thing always is, you know. Because if somebody feels at ease when they're collaborating and they're in a place where there's no judgment, which is fucking brutally important, because we all write absolute rubbish. Yeah. The stuff that we put out is the you know, the 1% of the 99% of crap that we well, never makes it out of the bin.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
So sure. once you realise that, I mean, that to me, I mean, it's even in comedy though. I mean, you look at the great comedy writers. There was always collaborations going on there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, because they are like what I always they have got. They are bouncing ideas off their pals.
Yeah,
lads, what do you think of this? They're all sitting around, they're all doing stuff, and they're all. And you take that, then you kind of. I don't know how many like really good comedians that I know that they really lean on really close pals of theirs that have known them for decades, so that when they're coming up with some ideas,
they're getting an honest reaction,
they're getting a laugh, and their pal actually contributes more to the joke, and then they go, oh dude, come on, I need to take this to the stage. I know Frankie Boyle does it,
I bet.
Who's a great comedian. Love but he's got a couple of pals that he's just like, nah, and he credits them as well.
Wow.
He credits them in his books, if he's been working together.
Wow.
And he sometimes credits them in like those and some of his specials, you know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's that's what you want, and you want an honest reaction. You know, that's all you want is before you take it anywhere outside the room. You know what I mean? And that's why it's important to find the people that are people that there's no ego in the room with.
Sure.
unless they're fucking brilliant, and then you'll accept it. You know,
Right,
and then
okay.
you're like, okay, you can have your ego trip, but
For this
but
one
this is
song,
gonna be great.
for this one song,
Yes,
the rest of the other
yeah.
fucking 8 are mine.
yes, exactly.
So,
you can have this one.
so how was it? How was it collaborating then with Cold? Like, what was your experiences with that? Good?
Great, absolutely. We hit the ground running straight away. You know, Eric Alcock, who I've got the project with. He's a Canadian producer who moved to Berlin about 2 years ago, just about 6 months before COVID, actually.
Okay.
And we hit the ground running. You know, you get put together, like his manager and my publisher put us together, and they said, you guys should meet. He was new in town at the time, and you never know. I mean, you might walk into a room and you don't get on, or, you know, there's no spark, or there's no... But you can usually tell. Like,
You can tell.
You can tell.
So, but how does it work, man? How do you then, like, how do you bounce that, or how do you know if that spark is there? And then how do you bounce out ideas? Is that happening in a studio, or is it happening like these all just sit around a big sofa and like?
Eric was in the studio. In his studio, we walked in and we were introduced, had chewed the fat a bit, and then it was like, that's a good idea for a song within the conversation. And then it's like he's picking a guitar up, and then boom, we're
Yeah,
off.
man, that's
And
to
that's-
be a fly in the wall there, man.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But that's when it really works, and then, you know, there's no block here, and, like, you know, you don't have somebody dissecting the lines that you're throwing at each other,
Sure.
which just kills the flow, you know.
Okay,
and,
man.
For me, it's just like be open to everything, and it was like that right from the off, and then we just found it really easy to write. We could sit in a room, like, if I sit in a room with Eric, we'll write a song. Like my friend Kristen, we wrote a song in the park today.
Aye?
Yeah.
Nice.
And we didn't even mean to, but we were just like, there was a line, and then we had a song.
I love it.
Yeah. So it really is down to how the personalities match. You know, like Lennon and McCartney. Like Lennon took the saccharine of McCartney's stuff and gave it this edge, and McCartney added this saccharine to Lennon's too bitter.
Sure.
And you look at both their careers, solo careers, and you can see Lennon's was quite bitter.
Yeah.
You know, great stuff, but quite bitter. And McCartney's, people could argue, was too saccharine.
Yeah.
So that was that. You know, you fill the holes and the gaps that are missing in your own toolbox with somebody else on a really great collaboration.
Yeah.
As long as the goal is the end goal, is the finished thing is great, you know, and if, you know, that's half the battle.
And Cold is out now, isn't it?
Singles out. Get Arrested. We've got another single coming in September, and then the album comes. We've got 2 or 3 singles before Christmas, and then we've got the album coming in February next year.
Are you getting any kind of crossover from the success of the Power of Dreams that's just happened? Yeah,
there's a lot of that going on.
I love that, because
it makes sense.
You check it out, don't you? You check
Exactly.
out who's behind the music.
And in Ireland at the moment, we're noticing that, like, a lot, they'll play a Power of Dreams song and then they play a Cold track, you know, which is just fantastic.
Oh, that's
double
good.
bubble, man.
That's good, man.
Double bubble.
That's good. That's
And
good.
the Cold are supporting Power of Dreams on tour in Ireland and the UK next year.
Aye.
So yeah, I'm double gigging.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. How's that going to work, though, man?
It's gonna be a lot of work. What we'll do is we're going to do like a 25-minute set, the Cold, start of the night. Then we'll have a local support act, and then Power of Dreams. So I'll get a break in the middle.
Okay, right.
And it's not going to be full band. It's going to be more kind of stripped back version of the Cold.
Right,
So
okay.
Piano, guitar.
And that's going to be an Ireland tour?
Yeah, and the UK.
And the UK?
Yeah.
When's that happening,
That's
man?
in March of next year.
That's brilliant.
Paddy's night in London at the 100 Club.
Oh, mate,
You gotta
come
come
on.
over, mate.
Oh, come on. Get me a ticket, I'm there, mate.
I'll put you on the list, no problem.
Yes.
Oxford Street.
Oh, mate, I'm going to hold you to that
And
one.
then we're
It's on
playing
camera,
Dublin.
lads. It's on camera.
So then we're doing Dublin as well. We're playing Dublin, Kerry, which is a beautiful, beautiful spot, south of Ireland.
Yeah.
Cork, and I think there's going to be a show in Limerick as well.
Okay, man.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
Now,
Can't wait to bring it up. Can't wait to play live. I haven't played a gig. I haven't played a gig since February 2019.
well, I've done a couple, and I've done a couple of big ones and a couple of small ones, and
How was it being back on stage?
unbelievable.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. You know what I haven't felt in a long time, being on before going on stage? Excitement.
Yeah.
It's always been nerves.
Yeah, yeah.
It's always like that little kind of why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I feeling sick? Why do I think that no one's going to like me? What if these jokes don't work?
Yeah.
I was chewing at the bit, man. I was standing. I was like, this guy's shit. He needs to get off the stage because I need to go on. I'm going to tear it up. And it was just that weird confidence.
Yeah.
Had been missing for so long, man. So I'm really hoping that something similar happens to yourself, where you just...
Friends of mine have played gigs and they've told me that it was like playing your first gig ever. The reaction was just so appreciative, and like everybody's just so fucking happy to see music or hear comedy, or you know, just to be in the presence of other people, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's the X factor, isn't it? That, you know, that stupid show. What the X factor really is the fucking audience.
That's true, man. That's true. Yeah.
As we were saying, like the American comedy show, or like the talk shows that just didn't work without an audience. You know, like the big ones. Just were flat.
Yeah, I think the only one that I thought worked maybe alright was John Oliver. I don't know if you watch him.
Yeah.
But even then, and as a kind of entertainer, performer, I was so intrigued to watch the first episode of all these guys, your Seth Meyers and your John Oliver and Noah, Trevor, and like the whole kit, the whole list. I was very interested to see how they themselves as performers were backed up, their back was up against the wall. How was their rhythm? How was their timing?
I bet.
So it was very interesting to watch that, you know.
Ellen fell flat, didn't she?
Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. Because she's kind of a flat performer anyway, you know, whereas I mean, for me Ellen's not such a relatable character for me, but yeah,
for other people.
But like, I always kind of like John Oliver, but he would react and like slap the table with laughter and stuff, and like after like get seeing a reaction, and he would sometimes even talk to the crowd in that monologue that he does. Whereas there was none of that. But here, man, listen, so we're now getting on to like 20 minutes, so this is going to be like a fucking a 1.5 hour, 1.5 hour podcast, man, so
bonus, love it.
Enjoy it, lads and ladettes. So listen, I really appreciate you coming out here again today.
Pleasure.
It's been, we need to do this all the time.
Absolutely, once a week. I'm coming down to see you play as well in September.
Yeah, man. I'm going to do a couple of gigs in September. This will be out before that for sure. So make sure you come and see that, man. Check out some links and stuff.
We'll be there.
Anyway, Chief.
Thank you, man.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. And all the links to Cold and Power of Dreams and all that stuff will be there, man. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.
Excuse me, where can I get myself a drink?